Hello, Brian. I jumped into your lobby just to check everything is all right. Sander here. You have your microphone muted. You can turn it on from the blue icon.
Okay, so I don't have a camera on my desktop,
Okay.
but I do have a desktop tuned into this.
Yeah, well, apparently we can see you and we can see your screen and everything works. So,
You
in a
can
sense,
you can
whenever,
see the presentation there.
yeah, you just hit that full screen and you're good to go.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I have two images,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not really sure how to get rid of my echo. I have an echo.
Well, you're
Driving me
actually
nuts.
sounding all right. You're not having too much of echo.
Yeah, but I hear it as a delay when I'm speaking, and so I'm
Yeah, you
talking.
probably should like mute yourself so you don't like hear yourself.
That that doesn't work. There we go. A little better.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see. Okay,
Yeah, I can see basically your whole browser window now.
I have two
So,
windows. I've joined twice.
yeah, I can see that.
Can you?
Well,
Can we switch to the session with the presentation? I have a microphone headset on. Hello?
so yeah.
You understand what
So
I'm?
how this basically works that it's gonna represent all of your screens at the same time. So you can actually just go with one at a time.
Yeah, the only mic that works is the one with the delay. I guess I could do this.
Okay, so the audio is coming through the phone.
Yeah, I could do this. This will work.
Yeah, that will work all fine. And we'll be most likely using the chat for any questions or so.
Okay.
And so far, it has been working all right. So you can just keep your eye on the chat on the right panel.
No, there's no right no chat for me.
Oh yeah. Well, you don't have to basically worry about that. You can just hit the blue play button whenever you're ready. We have like 5 minutes before the scheduled time. But so far, your audio, image, and everything is clear and looking good.
Okay. Thanks for setting this up. This should be fun. I
Yeah,
think you're going to be surprised and delighted.
I can't wait. I'm glad you're here doing the presentation for us, first of all. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I'm gonna drop off. I'm gonna give you that your last few minutes, and whenever you're ready, hit play, and you're good to go. I will take care of like restreaming this presentation all the social media, so you don't have to worry about that. You're gonna get famous. Yeah, now actually your audio on the phone is actually quite bad. I don't actually hear you. It is bad. I barely can hear you. Not really. There's some. Oh yeah, it was probably our hand.
Oh,
Yeah, it was probably our hand plugging up the mic
where is this okay?
from the. Yeah, it's okay. Now we can hear you. It was probably our hand blocking the microphone or something. If you're using your phone,
I am.
yeah, then that might have been the case.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Have fun.
Yeah. So I just hit. Are you recording?
Yeah, we are gonna record all of the presentations, and so you're live whenever you hit the play button.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, enjoy. I'm gonna drop off. Bye.
So, welcome to making GameBreak a thing with AI and social media marketing. We're going to do the best we can here. I'm streaming my screen on one connection, and I'm talking to you through video on the other one. So when Santeri asked me to present this, I hadn't won yet I hadn't won this contest. It was an EU versus the virus hackathon. And I built him a interesting solution so he could populate his Twitter feed. But then I won this EU versus hackathon contest for education and remote education. So I decided to switch this talk to creativity, and this is what I've been thinking about, most recently. When you have an idea, you let the idea win. You don't let the pitch win. You don't let the business win. If you have a great pitch, you win judges. If you have a great idea, you fix something that's broken, and you make things a little easier. You make things less expensive or more fun or more beautiful. So I'm gonna hide this for a second here and see if I've got any people looking on. But when I started thinking about this, I started thinking about Yoda, and he says, "Try not, do." And so when you start to think about an approach about how to do creativity, about what to do when you're creative, how you're creative, who you are, you let the boundaries of reality shape your ideas and not your method or your ideas about your ideas. Reality is bigger than our ideas, and people and our interactions are bigger than our ideas. So don't take any particular approach is what I'm trying to say when you're being creative. Don't take any specific path. Let reality shape your ideas into validated services or products, not your method. Go after what's unexpected, highlight what's new or unusual or surprising, look at things that are emotional, give people a reason to care about what you're doing, and try and come up with something that's simple, a simple unifying message. So how do we invite wildly unexpected emotional ideas? How can we make ideas happen? We can. So when we're thinking of this question about how to be creative, that's metadata. And that gets in the way of the actual process of being creative. You have to kind of be in the flow. That's the whole Zen Yoda thing. You just do and be. That's a hard thing to teach or even learn. But I got to tell you, when you give up trying to think about your ideas and organize what you're going to say about what you're going to say, it's just confusing. So why don't we just be unexpected and emotional? So the way to do this is to observe. When I think of Picasso and his presentation of the world and of himself, I think of him watching, being a watcher, a looker, an observer. So noticing things, noticing your environment, being aware. Gestalt psychology talks about the figure and the ground. We can't be aware of both things at once. We can think about the background, or we can think about what's right in front of us in the moment. So when you're making observations, you play with a puzzle. If you've got a problem in front of you, you mess around with the information you already have, the things you're thinking about, and you try and fit what's novel into this. Whatever you notice that's brand new. You open yourself up to surprise when you do this, and that's when creativity occurs. That's when the lightning flashes, when you are open and you forget yourself as the observer and just be the observer. So people will come with problems sometimes. It's too expensive, it's too much trouble, it's too difficult, it's a bad idea. But the issue with that is that sometimes you still really love the idea. So I had an experience when I was working with Cartoon Network years ago, where they had a cartoon character they really, really loved, and his legs hinged backwards, like a stork's hinge, and they decided that was too expensive, and they didn't want to animate him anymore because they had to do frame-based animation of this 3D object in the 90s, and it was just an amazing render to do. And so it was a bad idea, but everybody loved this character. So they killed him. They killed this character on television, and they had a party, essentially at the character's funeral. So they killed him off, and my part of this was to build online fake 3D. It was a succession of images of 3D objects that you could move and flash from frame to frame. So it emulated 3D. It wasn't actual 3D. So we killed him off, that character, and then for the first time in history, they put a URL on television, on Cartoon Network, and the traffic was a crazy thing. It was so much traffic. So if you kill an idea that everybody loves, but you got something for them, you have a big funeral, you have a big party, you got something for them, you can redirect that thing that was too expensive or too bad or didn't work right, and you can redirect the interest and even come out ahead. So even with a bad idea that gets implemented, you can still win. So as long as you've got an idea that everybody loves, and people really, really are enjoying, and it's too expensive, so what? So what? Kill it, have a big party, and then do something else that doesn't cost so much with that same idea. So give yourself permission. If you don't have an answer, it's okay. That's important. So if you don't know what you're going to do yet, okay. And I always ask myself, well, all right, I feel blocked, I don't have an answer. But if I did have an answer, what would that be? So always ask that question of yourself. If I did have an answer, what would that answer be? And sometimes if you even have a friend ask you that question, I know you don't have an answer, but if you did have one, what would it be? And all of a sudden things clear up. It's the weirdest magical thing. So what's the pain you're curing with your solution? What thing are you doing that you're fixing with your solution? What's the pain you cure? And who's the specific person that you want to give this solution to? So when Centauri came to me with this issue of GameBreak, having a blank Twitter account and wanted to promote the thing, we thought, well, how do you do that? How do you make a Twitter account fill up? How are we gonna give him a quick traction in Twitter? How can, if somebody has to sit around all the time tweeting, that's taking time away from the coding and the throwing of the conference and all the work that you have to do in order to move the ball. And so we came up with this idea to make an automated account that would retweet um, uh, tweets with the same sort of themes. But we didn't want to just do any retweet. We evaluated these tweets for their emotional positivity or negativity. And if they were negative, we just tossed them out. And if they were positive and they're happy tweets, then we would retweet the best of those. So we aggregated the best scores on all the emotionally ranked tweets and only retweeted ones that were happy. So this is kind of a crazy idea about how to project really happy vibes. So, you know, you're talking about, I'm talking about all these things, and always, there's always bean counters. People like to have numbers. We just like them. They're kind of magical. And so if you've got numbers, you can communicate those and talk about what your numbers are. So these can be relatable. So you pick a couple that are concrete, and you try and relate them to the project at hand. And if there's big numbers, you try and make them familiar. So when people talk about a trillion, it's bigger than a million, it's bigger than 100,000, but it's hard to make the difference between how big is a trillion? How do I even relate to that huge, enormous number? So you try and come up with some kind of context for it. So this is how I came up with this idea of retweeting positive tweets. I started with a blank account for the first bot that I made. This was the prototypical bot. And I took a measure every once in a while of how the tweet impressions were doing. So I wasn't looking for followers, because those can be gamed and bots can screw around with those. And I really wasn't looking for retweets. I was looking to see how far that message could possibly go. And for 64 tweets that were positive sentiment, we got 10,000 impressions. That means that 10,000 people saw our tweets. And then we have these crazy numbers. You know, when you start from zero, it went up a million, a million percent. So we got an increase of 1,000,000% for 64 tweets. That was pretty good, I thought. And this just kept on climbing with this experiment. So from no account, nothing like Centauri had, we went to these positive sentiment tweets. And when I did this experiment on NinjaMoba and I recorded these results, I got amazing growth. So after 220 tweets, we got 25K impressions. And then for another 150 or 60 tweets, we got another almost double that again. So when you retweet positive tweets, you get a nice reach. So the thing is, I learned with this is kind of a weird anomalous thing, that this can create exposure, interest, opportunity, contact. What we're fighting for, especially in the Twitter stream, which is like a fire hose, is any kind of attention or eyeballs on what the heck you're doing. So rather than looking for followers, I was just looking for someone to notice. Here's another number that's kind of interesting. When you got data, it's important to give numbers. And one of the numbers that's important to understand about climate and global warming is that science organizations, in this case 197 of them, agree. Now, to try, if you ever get scientists together in a room to agree on anything, that's major. It's kind of a big deal. So in this case, are we convinced that global warming is real and it's been caused by human action? The answer is yes. 197 scientific organizations, not just lone scientists, but but organizations have agreed that global warming is real. I come from the States. I'm an American, and one of the reasons I moved to Europe was because in the States they've picked climate change to be kind of like a football game. So there's two opposing sides, and each has an opinion, and you give each equal weight. But that's not how it works, really, in this case. So 197 international scientific organizations agree. So there's a number, given it supports something. You provide a number in context, and that can help you present your idea. And especially for game designers and people who are artists, thinking this way is not usually endemic. So people are, especially who went into the arts, may have not been so inclined to enjoy math, and numbers can, be daunting. But if you just start to look at numbers as a way to communicate your ideas and put them in context, that can be really helpful. So, what are you going to do? How are you going to build confidence? You have an idea. You think it's a pretty good one, and you don't know exactly what you're trying to do with this idea. How do you build it? How do you move on? What can we do? So if you start to communicate the traction that you get with the idea, the things that happen with that idea, if you start to notice how your idea fits with other people. So after you have your idea, then you can monitor. So once you have you feel like, this is really a good idea. So then you can start to evaluate it. Then you can start to look at, well, what other people think about this, and how can we get traction? What's the history of this idea? What have other people done with an idea like this? And you can do research and you can look at it. When you're having the idea, you're not doing metadata. But after you have the idea, then it's okay. You gotta kind of do the validation work and the hard work of exploring and research and trying to figure out whether people like it or it's a good idea or not. So how do you get an audience more involved? Well, you provide them with a roadmap and testimonials. And here's, just a nice, easy way to understand what milestones are. For me, I just came up with a team idea. We came up with this idea to have a chatbot for education. So this is a projection. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if we'll get this far. I think we will, though. I've never had an idea like this get traction. I've never had so many people excited in my entire life about a specific idea, except maybe that Cartoon Network thing. but this particular one just is really exciting. So here's the milestones that we have, going forward. Santeri probably has milestones going forward for his GameBreak. So asking him, what are your milestones, Santeri? We think this is a good idea. We like this online conference thing. What are you doing next? What are your plans? So that's a nice way for any kind of conference to move forward, so you know what's coming up in the future. You project, that way people can get on board with it. So what are people saying about what your idea is? What do other people say? For when we start to look at what people are thinking about this chatbot thing, you can seed your own idea. So the nice thing is you can say something about your idea and then see what other people say. And the cool thing about human beings is that we're interactive. We have ideas and thoughts about what other people are saying. So you can start to collect those remarks about the idea, and then move forward. And when you collect that information about what other people are saying, that can either snowball or that can stop the idea. But it's another way to find validation, or find some interest in what you came up with. So that's my talk on having ideas and how to validate them, and what you might want to do going forward. I'm going to see if I can get to the chat in the deal room here. I'm having a hard time, so bear with me. So I'm trying to find the chat. Oh, I did want to show you this. If you still can see my screen, this is the outline of the idea. So this is how our retweeting bot spoke to the world. It's in Node-RED, which is a open source way of coding that looks a lot like Legos. And these are the retweets. So if I refresh this here, you can see that the bot here, this little bot, just retweeted this thing 2 minutes ago. So this is populating on this new idea a number of tweets. You can see all these tweets that we retweeted that we're using the same method that we use for Centauri's promotion, which is to retweet positive sentiment tweets in order to populate basically an empty Twitter account. Well, let me see if I can get, okay, great. So we've got a few people here. There's 7 people listening to me. So a huge turnout. I don't know how many people are listening to me, but if somebody wants to ask a question in chat, thanks for the presentation. Should we keep this rolling for the next one? Sure, that was great. Are you guys good? Do you have questions, thoughts? I'm not hearing anything. Do I quit or not quit? Q&A. Any thoughts here? Well, I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks for turning out today. I appreciate, please reach out. I see Jan from the Donkey Crew and Jason Miller and Ollie and Vessa, my good friend. How you doing, Vessa? Reach out in the conference for matchmaking, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.